Well, what I have here is a Satsuki Azalea. We're going to look at post-flowering maintenance techniques. As you can see, this tree it's finished flowering, and the flowers have all kind of wilted off, and it's now a very important time to get in there and to give it a seriously good prune, get it back into a nice looking shape, so that it can grow again. Now, timing is very important for doing this. There's a window of opportunity after the flowers have finished until really the end of July. It's important to get it done, I think, in the UK, so that the new growth, as it comes out, has enough time before the end of the year to set a flower bud for the next year. I could prune this tree in October, and it'll still send out new growth in that year, October, November. But what that new growth will not have is it won't have a flower bud for next year. So, for example, with a tree like this, which I would be looking to, although it is very bushy, I've actually allowed it to grow out of shape, is that the new growth that it puts on will have flower buds, and so it'll be ready for being displayed next year. So what we're going to do now is give it a really good prune back to almost nothing, and then do a bit of branch selection and things like that. The tool I'm going to use at first is basically a pair of hedge trimmers, and just basically cut the whole thing back to very little. Right, I think this is a little bit rough, but this is one of the best techniques for maintaining Satsukis. All the professionals in Japan will work on trees that are still in a stage of training, using tools like this and this self-same technique. As you can see, it's very, very quick, and we're getting through all of the growth. It's kind of put on this year, and sort of really cutting back to the bare bones. As you can see, it is just very rough and ready pruning at first. The beauty of Satsuki Azaleas is that they will sprout anywhere, so you don't have to worry about cutting back to a node or leaving a bud growing at the end of a branch as you would do with a pine and stuff. So you can really get away with a lot more. Okay, so there, just with that rough pruning, which took a couple of minutes, you can already begin to see the tree. Quite a nice little azalea there. The variety of this tree is a Nikko, which means has these very nice sort of light pink flowers. But Nikko is a very strong variety of azalea, as you can see from all the growth, and so it's perfectly okay for me to treat it in such a way. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get in there with a pair of proper genuine bonsai scissors and get in and do a bit more fine work. As I said, Satsuki is a very good tree to use for bonsai, particularly for beginners, in that they will sprout on old wood and they'll sprout from anywhere. But one of the problems that we have with that is the way in which they sprout, particularly if it's a very vigorous tree. What you end up having is from one spot you will get 3 or 4 or 5 shoots all coming out from the same position. These all grew this year, from the spring of this year, still very young growth, but we've got 1, 2 and 3. Now, ideally we only want to have 2 here, So what we'll do at first is just get rid of the strongest one. So now we've got two shoots coming out opposite each other, and they're pretty much of the same strength. Obviously these were cut back in the rough cut at first, but they are of similar vigour, similar thickness. And then what we'll do is we'll just sort of prune those back a little bit, and we can also take off any sort of the damaged, dirty looking leaves from last year. Here we've got the same thing happened. We've got 1, 2, 3 shoots from last year. But you see now this branch is growing a little bit too far. It's growing a little bit too far out the silhouette that we want, because the new shoots are going to come from the end of here where they've been cut. So imagine those grow. They're going to get a little bit too long. So what we'll do is we'll cut off entirely, back down the branch a little bit there. And so what we'll have come from this bare branch now, in a couple of weeks we'll start to see 2 or 3 new shoots coming from there. So I'm just going to go through the whole tree looking for cases like that, pruning back where necessary. It's a very important job to do this with Satsukis, because it's a tree which likes to be kept young. The older the branches get, the less vigorous they become, the more likely they are to begin to lose vigour and die. So it's very important to constantly to prune and to keep getting new growth every year. This is something which is very true for a lot of trees, and it's a way in which trees, very old trees, can remain healthy. If the tips, the growing tips of the branches and of the roots can always remain young and healthy, then the tree will always be vigorous. So it's very important to stimulate new growth every year, and by cutting back the Satsuki like this, we're going to get a lot of new growth. So we've finished the rough pruning and going through and selecting out the 2 shoots. You might think this is quite a severe prune, but it's very important to every couple of years to take the tree back to its kind of basic skeleton like this, and then to grow it out again. As I said, it's important to keep getting new growth all the time. So what the final job to do now, before put a little bit of wire on some places, is to go through the tree and to select out any unnecessary branches.